Thanks a lot for the introduction, and thank you for having me over. Like I was introduced, I'm Ganesh. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Kabadiwala Connect. So we are a waste management company. We provide decentralized waste management and technology solution for the developing countries, powered by the informal sector. And today I'm going to be speaking on one of those topics that we've been working on a lot, which is advancing circular economy in developing world by holistic integration of the informal sector. So I'll just dive right into the talk, and I want to start with a landmark agreement that was signed in the climate conference in Paris, which I think all the speakers who spoke before me actually mentioned about. And here, what happened here was like almost all countries in the world came forward and have made commitments to reduce carbon emissions through 2025 to 2030 to make sure that the global warming levels are between 2 degrees Celsius and the ultimate goal of 1.5 degrees Celsius. Now, what does this mean? Like, what do you mean when you say we have to keep it to 1.5 degree? The pathway to this would mean that we reduce about 26 billion tons of carbon emission before 2030. Now, the problem is the commitments that these countries have made address only 50% of these emission targets. So there is still a need to reduce, about 15 billion tons of carbon emissions if we are going to achieve the target by 2030. Now, thinking about this, like, how are we going to, do this, right? And this is where circular economy kicks in. And this is a concept which potentially can address this gap. So what exactly is circular economy? Circular economy is a business logic that describes practical and scalable opportunities that, that is made possible by moving towards business models and policies that is by design, regenerative, and waste-free. So just to put it in a very simple terms, what circular economy tries to achieve is to maximize the value of materials that circulate with the economy, minimize the material consumption, and finally prevent waste from being generated. So it's basically moving away from a linear model where we take, make, and dispose, and instead going into a more circular model where we take the material, we use it, and then we recycle it and bring it back into the supply chain. Now, like I said, the third point when I was mentioning what circular economy seeks to do is to reduce waste. And that is a field that I've been working on for over 6 years. And I want to talk about this, another huge problem that we're facing, which is waste generation is growing faster than any other environmental pollutants, and especially in the developing countries. So waste sector alone can account for about 15% of greenhouse gas emissions. Now, zooming down a little bit to India. So India itself generates about 68 million tons of waste every year, and over 91% of it ends up in the landfill. And again, moving on to another huge problem is 8 million tons of plastic every year ends up in the ocean. Now, both these cases, when you put the waste in the landfill or into the ocean, what happens is that affects the flora and fauna. And when these waste, they break down, they emit the greenhouse gas emission. And that's how waste by itself, waste management by itself, is contributing to climate change. So why, like this is a problem that is across the globe, and especially in developing countries, you see there is a dire need to put in like better waste management solutions so that we can reduce the plastic leakage as well as the amount of waste that's going to the landfills. Now, fundamentally, where does this go wrong? Like, and especially in like developing countries where we have the centralized model of waste management systems that are currently operational. So this is like a typical model that works where we collect unsegregated waste from bins or door-to-door collection, which is transported to a transfer station and is then taken to the landfill. Now, if you look at this model by itself, it is designed for landfilling. The whole waste management system that we have right now is designed for landfilling and not for recycling or waste valorization. But luckily, in almost all of these developing countries, we have a parallel informal supply chain, which is scavenging through this waste and trying to recycle it as much as possible. So I'm just trying to paint a picture of like an informal waste sector in India, where we have about 1.5 million waste pickers across the country, and they help recover about 20% of the recyclable waste that is generated. And on an average, it means that for every ton they collect, the municipality is actually saving about 25,000 rupees. But if you look at the waste picker himself, he's earning about 300 rupees a day. Now, this info, before I go into the details, I want to just give you the extent of informality, especially in the developing countries. So 61% of the world's population is employed informally. And about 93% of the world's informal employment is in the emerging countries like India, Southeast Asia, Latin America, so on. So, and in 2015, we at Kabadiwala Connect conducted a detailed survey of the informal sector in Chennai, which was funded by the GPSCD, World Economic Forum and Expo Live. And we found this amazing supply chain. So generally, when people speak about informal waste sector, the focus is almost always on the waste pickers. But we wanted to go beyond that. We wanted to understand how does the supply chain look. So basically, our focus area was these. Who does a waste picker sell to? So it's a scrap shop, and the scrap shop then sells to a larger scrap shop, which then goes into a processor or recycler. Now, all of this could be like informal, and especially in the processor recycle angle, there could be a formal players as well. Now, what did we find is very interesting. So this, what you see on the left-hand side is the map of Chennai, and the green dots are the Kabadiwala shops or the scrap shops that we mapped. And the red dots are the larger aggregators. And it was very interesting because we got so much data to understand like how suited these guys are for, first of all, circular economy implementation, and second, how much work they are already doing while being invisible. So just to give you some key learnings that we found, right? Like the decentralized nature. So decentralized, to be honest, if anything decentralized is cheaper. So you can do more hyperlocal solutions if you integrate this informal sector. Secondly, almost all of them are highly entrepreneurial. They are material agnostic, so they can collect any kind of material that has value, and they're looking to improve their volumes, improve their revenues, and indirectly actually contributing to higher recovery of the volumes. And third, which was surprising, is all of them are almost technology accustomed. And they are resilient, to be honest. Like if you look at this COVID situation, it is one industry which was very, very badly hit. All the Kabadiwala shops were closed, and the waste pickers, didn't have anyone to sell their material to. So their daily living was much affected, but they have survived. They have survived by, like the Kabadiwalas help the waste pickers in some way, and they're highly resilient network, and they're back on their feet right now. And they also contribute to a very high material recovery. Just to back these points with some data. So this is some data that we, a summary of data that we collected on the Kabadiwala shops. So they recover about 24% of the recyclable waste that is already being generated. So this is without anyone's help. They have been roaming around the street, and they have collected this material, which accounts to about 130,000 tons of recyclables every year. And 52% of them have smartphones. So this is what I meant when I said, they are technology. So we can put technology-based solutions into the sector and make it successful. Their average earning is about 20,000 rupees. So this is like a scrap shop that you see, a local Kabadiwala shop. And 74% of them actually do household collection. They pick up material from the household. So this is like exactly like, as I said, parallel to the municipal collection that happens. Secondly, the large aggregators, they are more specialized. So if you look at a waste picker, he collects paper, plastic, glass, metal. Same thing with a Kabadiwala or a level 1 aggregator, where he again collects paper, plastic, glass, and metal. But when you go to the next level, where there is some level of processing that's happening, or some level of aggregation, the higher level of aggregation, you see these guys being more and more specialized in the material. Right, so there is a guy who does only plastic, there's a guy who does only metal, and the supply chain goes on like that. And again, here these guys make much higher money. They are more tech savvy, so and so. So they have their own people employed. Now, like I said, like the formal system or the formal waste management system that we have currently is actually directing towards landfilling, whereas this informal sector is actually looking for waste valorization, which is waste recycling. They are trying to get more and more material into the recycling. So what will be why are we calling for the integration of this informal sector? Like how is it going to be advantageous? So the first thing, if you integrate the informal sector, first thing being, you will have a huge savings in terms of waste management, especially for the government. So like I said, every ton that is being procured by the informal sector, there is a rough estimate where about 25,000 rupees is saved for the municipality. Second, it helps improve the livelihoods of the most marginalized stakeholders. So there is a social element to it, right? Like, because the whole idea, even the reason we started Kabadi Wala Connect, was to how do we bring these invisible recyclers, improve their livelihood, make them more revenues and so on. So that is a very key thing. So the society as a whole will improve on integration. Second, they themselves, so all the waste pickers you see are working in unsafe environment. There is really no compliance that is being put in. So they're working like, even when they do segregation of the material, it's not done with the right tools and so on. So they're scraping around and doing this 24% of recovery. So integrating them into the formal system would mean that they get better safety, they get better dignity of labor. I would like to maybe cite one of the example where we have started putting IoT-based smart bins and getting waste pickers to go collect from a more safer environment rather than them going to a landfill and doing it. So integrating them would improve their livelihood as well as improve their safety and their work environment. Second, improved recovery rates. Again, like this, there is a huge difference between how the formal sector works and how the informal sector works. For the informal sector, the material he recovers is actual money. So he recovers more, he gets more money. So there is a drive within him to actually collect more and more material. And this will be of high advantages for, in terms of recovery of material. And similarly, when the informal sector recovers more, you will have very high recycling rates. So this is broadly what I want to say. Like, basically, from a materials perspective, and when you say circular economy, it's very key for us to look at our waste and how our waste is being handled, and to improve our waste management, which is a dire need right now. It is very key to have the informal sector integrated so that we can actually contribute to this achieving this 1.5 degree target that was set in